Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
That's all right.
Yep, okay, excellent. If you
karma.
can't hear at any point, please just let us know because the mics have been slightly wobbly today. If you can't hear, just let us know and we can move on to the handheld mic. But a very good afternoon and welcome to the Factual Entertainment Commissioners panel this afternoon. As I think we can all agree, factual entertainment is one of the fastest growing genres in the busy TV schedules. And today we've got representatives from Channel 5, Discovery and A&E, and we hope to dig in and find out what shows are working for them all, what new formats and shows they're looking for, and what it is they all think that really makes their own channels and schedules stand out. So, without any further pause, let me introduce you to our panel. First of all, I've got Charlotte Reed here. Charlotte is the Director of Factual Entertainment at Discovery Networks International. And in this role, she commissions content and also EPs, some of the most successful factual entertainment and lifestyle programs for DNI's female-skewing channels, which include the very excellent TLC, ID, and the new free-to-air channel Quest Red, which actually I'm quite interested in, so I'm sure we'll have some more questions about those later. Charlotte's recent credits include Say Yes to the Dress, something I'm sure we all know about, Curvy Brides Boutique, Katie Price, My Crazy Life, Too Ugly for Love, Faking It, Tears of a Crime, and Katie Hopkins, My Fat Story. On Charlotte's left, we have Adrian Padmore. So Adrian joined Channel 5 as commissioning editor for Factual in May 2017 and joined Channel 5 from the BBC, where he was commissioning editor of Daytime and Early Peak from 2015 to 2017. At Channel 5, Adrian's responsible for commissioning Peak Time Factual and Factual programming across the channel, with series including Chocolate Dreams, Inside Hotel Chocolat and the Bermuda Triangle, to name but a few. Adrian has also overseen such popular Channel 5 series that I'm sure we all recognise, such as Made in Yorkshire, Police Interceptors, Celebrity Big Brother, World's Wildest Flights, Building Britain's Canals, The Secrets of Skyscrapers, Designing the Dream, QE2, amongst a load of others. Adrian, goodness. And finally, if I can find my correct piece of paper, finally I'd like to introduce you all to Diana Carter. Diana who works at A&E, and Diana came to A&E on the heels of a 6-year stint at MTV. Diana Carter is currently commissioning editor and head of talent across the A&E network's UK portfolio, focusing on the local commissioning of content and strategy. She was appointed the role of commissioning editor in 2015, and her head of talent role was an expansion of the position later that year. After the vast majority of local content, she began to embrace the use of brand-relevant talent across platform asset level, including iconic key art, terrestrial broadcast appearances, cross-portfolio trailers, and affiliated events. Along with that, she consistently EPs high-rating local content for the portfolio. Most recently, Diana EP'd Murder Town, which was the highest-rated local commission ever for crime and investigation in the UK, which I think is really impressive.
I'm quite tired listening to all of that.
But the crime thing is interesting, and I'm sure we'll come back to that because it's not one we would necessarily have assumed would be on the list. So I think, first of all, what I'd love to do is ask each of our esteemed panel members to talk a little bit about the channel, what's working for them at the moment, what they're interested in, what they think is popping, and perhaps show us a clip of something either upcoming or something that's really successful, and then perhaps give us a little more insight into why that's working so well. Charlotte?
So I commission for TLC, ID, our crime channel.
You're good.
That's good, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Emma, everyone? I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I was hoping you couldn't hear me.
Hear
so
Charlotte.
I'm aware of it. And Quest Red. TLC, a lot of our content there is about kind of building our Home of Weddings brand. So we have Friday Bride Day, which we have to commission into, and we do that in a number of ways through hopefully sort of talent-led, noisy one-offs, or big volume deals that build on our Say Yes franchise,
Yeah.
which you talked about. So Say Yes it's like 12 years old. It came out of the States.
Yeah.
We get a certain amount of content from them. We get the Kleinfeld's original, which is up to season 16 now, and we get Say Yes to Dress Atlanta. But we've made different local versions all around the world now. And we've commissioned, I think, 140 episodes of Say Yes to the Dress UK in the last 2
Wow.
years. I know, it's a lot. I've seen a lot of wedding dresses. Don't buy a fishtail, that's the only thing I'd say. And we've just commissioned a 10-parter of Say Yes to the Dress Lancashire. We wanted to go to Yorkshire.
Can't do
but
Yorkshire.
We can't go there 'cause
Boundaries.
We do Yorkshire. We do.
So we've done Say Yes to Dress Lancashire, and what we've done that. So basically, the challenge on that is how you refresh a really big brand like that and stop it getting fatigued. So our latest idea, and we do some things that work and some things that don't, but our latest idea was to bring two brands together, which is the Say Yes brand and then Gok One from How to Look Good Naked. So we've got
Interesting.
him presenting. So maybe we could have a little look at
Let's
this.
do
is
that.
Coming out
It
next
sounds-
month. This is
Sounds like a
promo.
very good marriage to me, that.
Hope so.
Look out, Lancashire. Say Yes to the Dress is on the way.
Buckle up, ladies, it's a busy day.
Draw that dress. Tell me what it looks like.
An A-line thin strap. Pink. It sounds awful.
Sounds a bit confused.
Yeah, that's what I am. Hate it.
You hate it?
Yeah.
This dress has got its own postal code.
Could see back fat. I know. I am freaking out.
I have an idea.
Here we go, Shiv.
I'm gawked. Do you make me feel so good about myself? I feel like a princess.
What is your gut telling you?
Yes.
Join Gok One for brand new Say Yes to the Dress Lancashire. Starts Friday the 22nd of March, only on TLC.
Shameless plug.
There we go.
So yeah, we're really hoping that the sensibilities Gok brings to that franchise will kind of invigorate the brand. And we're really excited. We're really excited about how that's going to work. And it's because it's hard. It's hard to
So-
sort of work out how you do refresh really big juggernauts.
I
like Say
agree.
Yes.
And so what have you done locally to turn that from that massive global success? So what kind of tweaks or changes, obviously Gok, who's a bit of a national treasure now, isn't he? So I'm sure that seems like a great fit. But what other production changes or did you guys have to bring to the project to make it feel that it suits your channel?
Yeah, so we did a number of things. So Gok, I used to produce How to Look Good Naked 5 months ago, 15 years ago. So I knew Gok from that, so it was really nice being able to work with him again. And he's like a lovely bottle of wine. He's just matured brilliantly. And he brings, I think, sort of sensibilities about body confidence, because I think Say Yes looks like it's a show about, as the Australian producer called it, 3 birds buying a frock. But actually we think it's about, it's about family dynamics, it's about the fault lines between mothers and daughters. It's actually, a really, really brilliant family drama full of conflict and comedy, hopefully. And I think he can bring real understanding to that about what women want and all those kind of conflict lines.
So it's Gok. For you, the talent is massively important.
So the talent, and then I think going regional. So we'd made a lot of the shows in our Essex salon. So going up north is a really big thing. And I think it brings really, really different sensibilities, surprisingly so. I think Northern Brides, we've found, are much more about family than about themselves. No offence to the Essex Brides, but it just brings really, really different sensibilities. So changing that, and we also went from half hours to 1 hour. So we're making
Interesting.
quite significant changes.
Yeah, significant. Well, I hope it goes really well for you.
And we went to a local northern producer to make it.
Okay, excellent. And so if you were to wheel that out, Lancashire out into Cornwall, will you be again using local producers, or is that TBC?
Yeah, I think we'd look at that, definitely.
Okay, well,
I
that's
think
really
it's
interesting.
really nice that we've got a producer who's local to that salon and understands the
I agree.
sensibility of that part of the world.
I think that's an interesting model for the future. I like that. I think that's good. I think that's great. Anything else in particular that at the moment that you're looking for or you feel is hot aside from Yes to the Dress?
So the other area that we're really interested in is reality. But when we say reality, it's kind of a very real reality. What we try and do is take celebrities, like we have Katie Price, My Crazy Life on Quest Red, but we try and sort of peel back the layers and not just get a one-dimensional Katie Price that you might know in the tabloids, and get to know her a little bit more. We kind of call it the story behind the headlines. And we work quite hard at making sure production can keep up with what goes on in the headlines and be quite reactive to that. So we've kind of disrupted our schedule a little bit to reflect that. So instead of commissioning a long run and playing it out as 6 or 10 episodes, we commissioned 12, and we did 2 before Christmas. We're going to do a run of 3 in April. We'll do another run of 3 or 4 in August, depending on what goes on, and then some down the year. So we're trying to make sure that we're kind of reacting to what's going on in her real life and the real world. And we're really interested in finding more in that space. And reality for us, so you need a really larger-than-life, uninhibited character, like a Katie. We've done something with Vicky Patterson recently. You need a multi-generational cast or supporting cast, and you need a certain amount of chaos in their lives, and them being willing to show that.
I think that's really interesting. Fabulous, thank you very much. Adrian, can I pass on a little over to you, and let's have a little bit of download on what's up at 5.
Yeah, so I look after 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Channel 5. We're a factual channel. I think the thing that works for us is that we're very positive, very life-affirming, warm. The tone is always inclusive. I think the subjects that work for us are really universal subjects. So always think about subjects that are in the papers, things that people are very connected to. They should all feel authentic and real. You know, so if you're going to do factual entertainment, our factual entertainment is far more factual than entertainment. So what you really need to do is to find something that's real or a social experiment, something that feels like when you're watching it, it could feel like a documentary, but it's got a bit of entertainment, warmth, positivity at the end of it. So that's what you're really looking for. So those sorts of, Rich House, Poor House, which is one of our really successful shows.
Yeah.
It works on the basis that the headline of the gap between rich and poor has never been bigger. So you understand the premise very clearly. Then there's a swap as a device. And then really it just plays out as a normal documentary. So the audience get into the show very quickly, and then you actually feel like you're just watching something that's, just watching everyday life. But what comes out of it is a really positive experience for both the families who are involved in the swap. Yeah. So that's where we kind of look for our factual entertainment.
So that's interesting. You had some clips stand up. Shall I play it?
Yeah,
and then maybe
I'll just tell you about this one. So this was, the shorthand is Celebrity Deadliest Catch. That's the best way to describe it. So I walked into Ben one day and I was watching the catch and I was watching trawlermen, and I just had, look, I think you can do this with celebrities because actually, fishing works for us. It's a working class environment, which is quite good for our channel. We know it's worked before, but if you put a celebrity in that world, it still feels like a real thing. They can't get off the boat. If there's a Forsyth Gale, they're really in it. They can't not be part of the crew, because if the crew don't all pull together, it doesn't happen. So actually, as a place for us to be and see their journey in lots of ways, it's a really good place for us to watch.
It is, isn't it? I mean, because Deadliest Catch, as we all know, was a really successful show all those years, and I found it really interesting against my own better judgment. I wouldn't have assumed that I would. So the idea of, and it's clearly quite uncomfortable, so I think the idea is quite warts and all as far as those...
Yeah, we weren't actually sure that they were going to come back. That was the only thing.
not very places to hide, I think, on one of... let's try and find...
Deep sea fishing, the most dangerous job in Britain. It's an industry worth £300 million a year.
Winners are never quitters, and quitters are never winners.
In this series, 3 celebrities are going on a life-changing adventure.
It's a bit rough and ready.
I didn't think it would be as dangerous as they said.
It was horrifying.
I must be absolutely barking.
As they join the crew of a British trawler.
There'll be no preferential treatment to those guys.
Really dangerous to go over the edges. Death.
Battling to make money in the brutal North Atlantic.
Shark in the water. Yeah.
They'll share exhaustion.
Sometimes you gotta hurt to be alive.
The guts and the glory.
as they find out what it takes
Borderline torture.
to catch the fish that feeds Britain.
That's great. Yeah, that's
So,
good. Isn't it?
Fabulous.
It
Love
works.
that.
Yeah,
I hope it works.
I'm sure it will. When does it?
Hopefully later this year, probably in autumn. I
Yeah.
think we're putting
And
it
did
out,
they
yeah.
like it? Can we get a little insider information?
Actually, yeah, they all became part of the crew very quickly, so they really enjoyed the experience. And I think actually they do it again, which is crazy, but they would.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did
Fabulous.
anyone fall overboard?
I'm not going to tell you.
So
I
good.
have to watch it.
And so other things that you're interested in at the moment, or you think are popping for the channel, or what are you particularly interested in?
Yeah,
Adrian?
we've clearly kind of done so many shows in Yorkshire. I think Yorkshire is interesting because not only is it the biggest county in England, but actually in terms of the tone, I think there's something that works about that it's very straight talking. People feel very down to earth. So I think there are other regions in Britain that have that same feel as well. Geordies have that same feel.
Yeah.
Scotland has that same feel. So I think about the tone that works, because actually that's something that works for Channel 5 overall. So I think about those subjects, because Yorkshire Vets, we've got My Yorkshire Farm was working really well. We've got Yorkshire Steam Railway. We have got other shows that aren't in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
We've also got Cruising with Jane McDonald. But the tone is that it's kind of people who are watching the channel who are watching other people like themselves.
Yeah.
And there's something about that they feel very comfortable. Equally with the talent, they feel that they've grown up with them as well. So that's something that really works for me.
So that's already helpful, but
Yeah.
probably don't pitch too many Yorkshire ideas right now, I would suggest, to be honest. Fabulous, that's interesting. And then we'll move along to Diana over at the end.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know how we're going to start, because I think A&E are very interesting to a lot of us. Sort of it's fabulous that you're part of our table now. Maybe 5-6 years ago you wouldn't have been.
Correct, probably,
it's certainly very interesting for the producers in the room to understand a little more about exactly who you are, the channel, which channels that you personally work across, what your big hits are, and what you're looking for more of.
Yeah, we're quite boutique in a way. We haven't been in this market for that long. I basically look after 8, 9, 10 prime time across the portfolio, and predominantly our older siblings, if you want to coin it like that, are History, huge brand, but people probably have a misconception about actually what's on it.
Yeah.
History, Crime and Investigation, and we also have free-to-air Blaze, which is a relatively new channel as well. So I look after local commissions, and we look at a minimum of one tentpole per brand per quarter. So we have a running conversation about commissions. We don't really commission seasonally. It's a constant for us, luckily. And there's no set, really unhelpfully, there's no set brief. There's no set tariff. We're just interested to hear what you have to say and what your ideas are. And I think it's just about that kind of timing and opportunity as to whether it fits.
Are they all series?
Yeah, we could do. It's kind of obviously more rare that we'll go the one-off, but we will have programming stunts and the like, where we will look at a local commission, a one-off, to put it on top of the PSA or the pipeline of content we get from these states. But we could look at a trilogy. We've done in the last year. We've done one-offs, 3-parters, 4-parters, 6, 8, 10. So unhelpfully, that doesn't narrow it down for you. But therefore, by the same token, it means we're open to every conversation.
Do you want me to play some clips that you brought along? Because maybe
Our broad range.
Your broad range, which is helpful actually.
Well,
I
I've
think.
got 3 clips, so I don't know which ones, because I went to cover all bases.
Do you want
to play them if you want to, and then I could talk about them
Yeah, why don't we
after.
play them? Because then you'll have an idea about the broad width that you're.
Yeah, we've got 1 for history, 2 for history, sorry, and 1 for crime.
Morning, how are you? One second, sorry, Dave, trying to make quite
Let Is it possible to get away with murder? What does a killer do after committing the most heinous of crimes? Do they carry on as normal and hide in plain sight? Or go on the run?
You try very hard not to mention the word murder.
How do the actions of a killer after their crime influence the police investigation?
She'd been suffocated.
By focusing on the aftermath, we unpick the mindset of a killer, understand the motive, and reveal what the killer did next.
I think that's brilliant. Unfortunately, they've only you've only got one clip.
That's
so what
fine.
I'd love to do though
That's
is
a good one.
for you,
it's a
great clip.
I could quite happily talk about any of them for
But it'd be
hours.
good to know what other clips you might have shown, so we can just see the breadth of.
Just going back to that one, it's much like you, Charlotte. We've kind of got a bank of 4 batches of 4, and we, in terms of the TX order, there's 8 in total, and it's really kind of gimmicky but well done. In that it's literally you have the public story of a murder, of a crime, and then you look at it through the eyes of knowing who the killer is. So you literally rewind the body cam footage or the CCTV and go, and Philip Denister, who I love, just kind of goes, look at it again. That's your killer. And you watch that story, that public story in a whole new light. So it's a really good example of a different way to tell an old story. Because with crime, you've got a body, you've got a killer before you've even done the first few seconds of show or program. So you've got to tell it with a different approach because everyone else. I mean, crime is so widely, with the Making a Murderer and all the rest of it, is such a popular genre. You've got to do it differently.
Immediately, I'd like to ask the difference between what kind of crime, the difference of the character of the crime that we might see on TLC or on ID. Sorry.
No, so it's really interesting because it's really similar. So we have a series on ID called Baking It: Tears of a Crime, and we did that murder, what he did before, maybe being relevant. It's a really grisly murder. And it is the retelling of iconic, famous British crimes. And then the layer we put on it is that we have a forensic psychologist, a body language expert, and a linguistics expert, and they usually do it through appeal footage, or in that case it would be CCTV footage, and they dissect the behaviour of the criminal. And it's just fascinating. So you get this other layer, so you can enjoy reliving that crime, but also get this takeout that's brilliant to apply to any part of your life, actually.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Particularly body language.
I think so many people kind of go, why is true crime interesting? And I think it's that behind the sofa thing where you want to know it's not going to happen to you, or you hope. So it's a bit like watching Doctor Who when you're 6 or 7, when you kind of you don't want to watch, but you force yourself to. You're quite glad that it's not you. And actually we'll find that ratings-wise that a lot of people will actively watch as an appointment to view live at 1 a.m. Double that you will get at 9.
Amazing.
It's such an interesting kind of genre. It's like my middle child. Sorry.
Yeah.
Channel 5.
Well, it's funny. We've got 5 mistakes that cause a killer, and I think the thing with all of these crime stories is that they're very popular. So actually, if you can pick very well-known cases and tell them in a different way, that's the way to try and ensure that you've got an audience, because they understand the crime, they know about it, but they don't know every detail about it. So it's always a good territory to
really
go
interesting.
for.
Well, I think crime's quite hot at the moment, clearly. But other than crime, across A&E, what are your current?
So history is the kind of older sibling, if crime's the middle child. So history, I mean, I've got such fondness for all of them. History is not what you think it is. It's fact better than fiction, but I think a lot of people have a perception of the History Channel as, no offence to anyone with facial hair, but beard stroking and a bit kind of, earnest looking and, archaeological digs. And actually for us, history is about the kind of pirates and Vikings and lustiness and drinking and bad behaviour and rebels and blood and death, and it's the lustiest thing. It's about those stories. Fact is better than fiction. If you look at any history book, you'll see stories which are truly unbelievable, and we kind of we like to take the history and really breathe some guts into it and tell people why they should watch and why it's relevant. So history, all the primetime content we'll have on history really has to have historical heart to it, but then it also has the dressing of talent to be that mouthpiece, to be that storyteller. And like you, Adrian, a lot of warmth, a lot of humour is also applicable. So we like to change the perception of history, really. So that's history, and Blaze is our free-to-air, and that's a kind of male-dominated territory currently as well, which is probably a lot more formatted, format-focused, a lot more about craftsmanship, skills, axemen, icemen, ice road truckers and things. So yeah, it's quite a broad range as a portfolio.
Okay, that's all very interesting. One thing that immediately strikes me from seeing all your clips and hearing your talk is that talent has a big place on across all your channels. And I mean, out of 100% that you might commission in a year, how much is likely to be talent driven and how not? Just to give us an example, do you think?
Yeah, I think.
I'm not meaning to catch you out.
Yeah,
I feel like I've asked a tough question, but it clearly is important, and I just think it should, as producers, should we be working up most of our ideas with talent, or can that be bolted on? Or I mean,
I think for us, talent's really important. So we've just had Michael Palin doing North Korea, and and, we've got Paxman, Prescott, Portillo, Palin. We've got lots of P's clearly. We've got Tony Robinson as well. But I think the thing about talent is just understanding why you're watching the talent in that world. So I think it's very difficult to just say, oh, we've got this name, but we don't know what to do with them, or put them with that subject, and then the viewer wonders why they're doing it. So I think just really think about, if you've got somebody you really like and you think they work on the channel, what's the subject that's going to work for Channel 5 as well? Because actually, without the subject working, then people just go, well, what are they doing there? So I think that's always the thing to look at.
Yeah, so it wants to feel authentically, like they've got a place there. Yeah, I understand that. How about on Discovery?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a mixed economy. I think we want sometimes expert talent, like a Gok in Say Yes, or our experts on Faking It, and sometimes it is talent-led projects, like a Katie Price or a Vicky Patterson that we did recently that has become our highest rating show, second highest rating show ever on TLC, and I think that's down to the power of her reach as a celebrity, and that worked really well for us, but also because what we did with her was a lot of what you're saying about it was really authentic, and on a lot of our stuff it looks like factual entertainment, but actually once you unpack it, it's documentary and told in a very documentary way. So with her, we'd commissioned a wedding show. Vicky and John Said Yes as a sort of franchise spin-off. They subsequently broke up when we were in production, and we decided, working with the talent, the production company, just to follow what had happened and turned it into a breakup show.
That's great.
Which is sort of part of weddings, isn't it?
Totally.
The underbelly. And it was a really powerful documentary because Vicky allowed us to show her really as she was. And actually, I think what's interesting is when we work with talent. So when Vicky watched that show back, she felt that it was the most real version of herself, and that's someone who's worked in telly for 10 years. And when we did Alex and Olivia on Love Island, we followed their wedding, they were really surprised at how they came across. So I think, we're in the business of finding that tone, something warm, something redeemable, something honest, something authentic, not sort of TV constructs. That wouldn't really work for us on our channels.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, our portfolio is all about stories. We're storytellers, and the reason that we commission that 8, 9, 10 content is because we feel that there are stories to tell, whether that's via talent. Sometimes I'll find that actually it's the stories themselves that are the star of the show, and actually any celebrity talent we might add is supporting cast to that, really, or the narrative is the star of the show. So ultimately it's stories, and we find the best way to tell them.
Okay, that's all really interesting. So let me pose you all a question, just for us to try and get a better idea of, again, your channel identities. If you could steal one program that's on another channel that you think would fit yours really well, what would you like to pilfer? Adrian?
Probably about 3. I would have taken Old People's Home for 4-year-olds. I think that's a fact tense show that social experiment done, I think, in Scandinavia or something like that. I think. But we all understand old people's homes. I think we all understand that relationship between grandparents and their grandchildren, so you feel that it translates to the British audience. And then, you just know that there's going to be real positivity and warmth about it. So I think that's something that I would have taken from Channel 4. I think EasyJet inside the cockpit, really good. They had done EasyJet many times on ITV, and it was really, really smart idea to do the other bit that you never saw and make that into a series, because that's the bit behind the door that you don't know about. And so I think there's always good kind of TV moments in the other side of the door. So when we do GPs behind closed doors on Channel 5, you do feel like you're being let into a world that you don't normally see. So I think that always works as well.
So that's interesting as well, that for Channel 5, that those special pieces of access, those unique access pieces are always worth.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, following up. What are you going to steal?
God, I mean, the list is long. And it's
you're
also
allowed
really subjective, because if my amazing boss Dan was here, he'd probably have a really different view. I personally love a Who Do You Think You Are? Just because you see talent in a whole different way, very authentically. I mean, Danny Dyer's one was probably just like a national treasure in itself, so that would definitely be one for me. And you know what, crime content for me is such a sweet spot. Goes back to that 6-year-old hiding behind the sofa with Daleks. I just, I find it really is fascinating, the crime genre. But Who Do You Think You Are would be my history steal.
Okay, that's great. Charlotte?
So my tonal steal probably would be the Old People's Home 4-year-olds as well. I think just because it does that thing, it comes from something authentic, it genuinely makes the 90-year-olds happier and the 4-year-olds happier, and I think the sort of authenticity of that really speaks to what we're looking for on Quest Red. And then for TLC, and then Quest Red, I'll probably just nick all of Adrian's Yorkshire programming, just the whole lot. And to maybe do a volume deal.
We could. That's another
there we go.
And then for TLC, if I can have a third one, I'd maybe take the Spencer and Vogue reality show on E4. I think it's, I think they've made it feel really real, and you get a real sense of their relationship, and it feels like there's genuine love there.
Really interesting.
It's not just for telly.
Very interesting. Right, so surprises. I'd like to talk to you about surprises. So is there anything in the last year that you've had that surprised you? Either in something you thought was bound to be a ratings winner that just didn't do quite as well as you thought it would, or something that was award-winning and unexpected that cropped up that you didn't know? I think it's always quite interesting digging into looking in the last year or so and finding out what surprised you.
So the Vicky Patterson breakout that we talked about went out last month, and we were really excited about it. We knew it was a really good film. It got terrible overnights. And we were all like a bit suicidal the next day. One of the guys in the wider team, well, what do you expect? It's an hour-long sob fest. And we were like, ugh. And so, applying to Tesco's and handing in our resignation letters. And actually, what had happened is it became the biggest, but everyone watched it on catch-up. And then we put it out on YouTube, so we played it across all our different platforms, and it became the second highest rater ever, but it happened over a 10-day period.
So it was a grower and across other platforms. And
but it was horrible and then surprising in a nice way, but it was a bit of a journey.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think for us we did Operation Live a few months ago, and I think that worked really well for us. And I think finding operations that you can do in 2 hours is difficult, but actually the ones that we found really brought an audience, and also for us, it actually should be so, which was really interesting. So I think that lots of people are trying to work out what 16 to 34 are watching at the moment. But I think if they find a very good subject, then they will come to. That's quite an interesting one that works well. It was a good shout for us.
And would you explore more live?
Yeah, I think so.
Content?
I think to make sure that the subject matter is a kind of catch-all for us. It's really universal.
Do you know what? I think we've been really lucky, is that most of our local commissions tend to touch, kind of follow through expectations and hope. We definitely don't get it spot on and right. You know, design was a history commission from a couple of years ago. Great idea, but it totally became a bit too grim on history for the audience to really embrace too readily. But on the whole, I think we've got, you know, we're lucky to work with indies who tell our stories and make such good content for us and with us. And our relationships with talent are really bespoke and careful, and they work really well as well. We've been very lucky so far.
Excellent. One more question I'll discuss with you before we throw it out to the audience for questions. I'm sure you've got lots of questions for these guys. Obviously, we're here at a big tech event, and I think it's quite interesting looking at the place, the growing place for some channels that tech has in some of the content. You know, the Circles, an example, or Hunted, or in the specialist factual world, drones. You know, the amount of drones that are used, and in wildlife. You know, and rigs, area that we've discussed. I mean, it's an area that do budgetary constraints, do we think, create a negative as to why perhaps we don't see as much tech in this genre as we do in others?
I think it's about finding, you know, for us, it's probably about finding a precinct where the tech can really add to what you're seeing. So, you know, it's really expensive to do a rig, for example. So when we do GPs behind closed doors, because you understand the world very easily, you know, for the audience, actually having the rig allows you to hear more stories and perhaps more secrets and more kind of insights than you would if you had a camera team there. So, so actually, it's just about working out, you know, what's the benefit of using the technology rather than just having it there for the sake of it.
I think that's right. How about?
Yeah. I mean, we don't necessarily go for the rig type shows. That's not where our heart is. But we do take the look and feel of our content from an aesthetic point of view massively seriously. We want it to look premium, and so we do spend a lot of time talking with our indies about the tech spec as to how they're going to shoot stuff is key. It needs to look amazing.
Yeah, I mean, our shows are mostly about story. That's always going to be the most important thing. But it is always the drone line that seems to come out first.
Yeah.
And we spend quite a lot of time arguing with our production management department about this, or putting it in red in the ed spec so that it doesn't get cut. But I think it's the same thing. If there's a way that it can help the budget, you know, give us another way of bringing the cost per hour down, but still giving us, you know, scale and an epic look, then it's really interesting to look at, but it has to be story-led. Story first is what
you're all saying, which I think is really great to hear always. You know, that's how great television gets made, in my opinion. It's story first, I think. That was all fantastically interesting, and I think we've all had a good chance to hear about what you're all up to. So we'd love to throw it to the floor for questioning. Have we got a mic? How do we? Okay, I think we've got a question over here.
Thank you for the talk of the panel. It's great. I'm currently doing my research in University of Warwick, a PhD in the creative industry. So talk about the factual entertainment. Actually, it's also a great genre that's growing in the China. So my question is, when you're creating the new programs, do you have any framework bear in mind to consider all the components that will ensure this program into successful, but also keep its newness and authenticity? Yeah.
So if I understand you, the question was, is there a sort of framework, a painting by numbers, if you like, as a way of hitting all the notes for the individual channels?
We're really annoying. We're like, you tell us what you want to make. You know, we have no expectation. We love to be surprised. We want to be engaged by your pitch, whether it's a one-liner or a presentation. You know, we want you to tell us what inspired you to come to us, really. So no, there's no paint by numbers kit or list of box checking that we have. No, that can be very unhelpful. Sorry, or it could, be brilliant.
I think any kind of piece of rare access that you have, or have you, I think if you're coming in it from an access angle, if I understand correctly, you could always just discuss the access with these guys first. Or if it's more of a formatted series, it's about getting the format into a working order and then delivering it in a interesting and concise fashion, really.
Yeah, I tend to like short pitches, so because I think actually most ideas, if you understand the premise really quickly, then you can always expand on how you're going to make it work. So I think actually, a couple of lines, a paragraph is not such a bad way to look at an idea, because if you get it, then you can work on the rest of it. So that's always something to think about.
So think in TV billings, really, and build out from there.
And tape's really good. However basic, it could be a rip reel, something that just gives you a voice or a tone, even a Skype of potential talent or an expert. Just something on tape always helps.
Okay, who else has a question? No questions? Well, I'll come up with
we've answered them all.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, there's a gentleman here.
Yeah, just going back. Is that working? Just going back to talent again. Oops. I have to admit that when I see a program that's got like the same old characters that trot around all the other factual programs, I just switch to the news. Like one example is about like a chef who started to investigate crime, and that just didn't work for me at all. I mean, all I'm saying is, has that been done too much? Have you done enough celebrity?
Was there a question?
I'm so sorry, I didn't really hear that.
Was there a question attached?
Sorry?
Was there a question to it?
Yeah, it was. I just said, have you done enough of celebrity? Is it about time to do something else?
Have we had enough of celebrity?
Is it time to do something else other than crime?
Or have we done enough celebrity?
Definitely more crime,
have we done enough
but
right,
have people in there that
have we
investigate
done
crime, like solicitors, lawyers, professors.
Okay, so the question I think is, have we done enough celebrities?
I think for me it just depends on whether it feels real or not. I mean, there's no point putting them in a world where they don't add any value or they have no real place. There's a show on at the moment which is not on our channel that I would never have commissioned in a million years, because actually you just understand that the celebrities wouldn't normally be in that environment.
Yeah.
And so if it's not believable, don't put them in it.
Yeah, I agree.
Or if you think they just want to go to Japan on holiday,
Yeah,
then
has to be authentic.
probably shouldn't do it.
I think the audience figures still speak for themselves on some of these really key celebrity-driven shows. They just rate and rate and rate as well. I mean, they do.
And also, I think it's about the definition of a celebrity. A celebrity, for me, doesn't have to be a household name. It could be that a real person is that storyteller. So we don't really look to put celebrities together with formats necessarily. It's about storytelling. And that doesn't have to be a well-known person.
Oh, I think that is a good name for a panel for next year's BVE. I think we'll have a too many celebrities panel. I think we'll come back to that one next year. We got another question over here.
Hiya. So we've seen, I think, in the last few years, quite a lot more interest in political or social content. I mean, young people call it being woke, I suppose. But what I'm just wondering is if any of you see much more space on your channels for looking into political, intellectual, social sorts of content.
Political, social content. Charlotte?
So I think it's how you define that. I mean, we talk a lot about it. Whether you see it then coming through in the programs is another question, I guess. I mean, we talk about the reboot of Queer Eye on Netflix, and my theory is one of the reasons it's done so well is actually that has got a political underlayer. You know, they take this group of gay experts and they send them into redneck Trump America, and there's a whole political layer to that. Whether it's explicit or not, I don't know. But we do think with those sorts of political messages in mind. I don't know if they then bubble up, but maybe it helps us sleep at night.
It's interesting because they're there, but they also hit the warm tones that you talk about as well.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's such a winner.
Yeah.
Got time for another question?
We're a
question
production
over
company based in Leeds, and we mainly do corporate stuff, but we're looking into doing commissioned work. What would you need to see from a company to commission a company to do work for you?
Sadly, it's just a good idea. I think.
Ideas.
Yeah.
You know, I think small companies are absolutely fine for us to
Yeah.
work with, and I think sometimes you get they are more passionate about some of the ideas that they pitch than some of the bigger companies. But you know, it's about good ideas, but also knowing that people can execute those ideas, that they can deliver on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can vouch as well that a couple of small producers I'm working with are all working with the channels. I don't think the size matters. You might be paired with a larger indie or have someone with you, but I don't think being a small company is a problem. It's about the good idea and how you present it, actually, which brings us back to how do we get their ideas to your desk. It's probably worth knowing the protocols just very quickly.
I mean, if you have an email address or go online, we do have a portal on our A&E website whereby you can get to us. We're quite a bespoke network at this stage, so actually getting to us is really easy, and we're really quick to engage with you, and we'll take every meeting, we'll have every conversation. We're not actually that hard to get in touch with, and because you're important to us. So we take our relationships with you very seriously.
Yeah, and my email's on the Channel 5 commissioning site.
Yeah.
They all are.
Yeah.
I don't know if mine is, check mine, but ours are all just our name _@discovery.com. So
There we
again,
go.
really easy to get hold
So
of us.
it's, so you can get, if you've got a great idea, you know, present it correctly, concisely, and get it in, or get some tape. Was there another question? Sorry, there was a couple more. Have we got time for a couple more? Yeah.
One more.
One more.
I think that lady was
Two.
there was before.
There's that one there and one there.
Oh yeah. Just almost a follow-up. What is the next big thing that you're looking for? What are you crying out for?
I'd love a competition.
Ooh.
A competition.
I'd love a competition.
That's interesting.
That works for us. There's so many on other channels that have worked, so you know it's really hard to find the next subject that hasn't been done. If we can find one, I think.
That's interesting.
Sorry, the mic's cutting out.
Competition, I didn't think they
Competition.
heard.
Competition.
Looking for a competition. You heard it here. More of the same. Great stories.
Good stories, always
stories.
good stories.
I'd love a big medical transformation series like My £600 Life, which we have on Quest Red that we get from the States. More reality and something in the kind of salvage hunters, but more female skewing transactional space.
Is that it? Have we got time for?
Ladies.
The question is, ladies had a hand up a long time. Can I have one quick question?
Thank you. I had a question around sort of trends around formats and episode lengths and structure. So we're currently working on a series for a channel where we're filming 30 kind of mini factual entertainment stories across 12 cities. So each episode is made up of 3 10-minute stories, and then we're doing sort of 5-minute, 2-minute, 1-minute and 1-minute square cut downs for kind of online and other channels. Are you guys interested in more of that sort of, you know, format, or is that something that you're looking to kind of do more of, or, you know, look at innovation or sort of new sort of structures like that?
Most of our shows are an hour.
Yeah.
Most of our shows are a commercial hour.
So,
we sometimes do 2 hours, but you know, most of them are all an hour and a half.
Same for all of you, I think. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a way you could look at packaging your content into hours. You know, if you're doing that kind of show, perhaps you need to be looking at the hours model as well, just kind of reforming it.
So this is for kind of a traditional broadcaster who wanted to take a step change. But do you guys sort of see that happening across the industry?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You know, our TLC YouTube channel's growing phenomenally at the moment, and we are looking at whether we kind of commission specifically into that, and that will be, you know, under 8 minutes. So I think it's worth conversation because it's a very live conversation.
So
Awesome.
Discovery,
I'll get in
Discovery are
touch.
playing the
Thanks, guys.
space then, which is interesting. I think I think I'm being told, in no uncertain terms, that we have to stop. Sorry for any of you having any other questions are unanswered. I'm sure if you want to pop them in an email to any of our panellists, they will certainly be happy to answer them. But it remains for me to say, listen, thank you very much to Diana. I jotted down a few little notes about things that you said. So Charlotte apparently is warm and reactive. Adrian and Channel 5 want to be warm and inclusive and are only interested in talent with a P in it. And interestingly, Diana up there is into there was a lot of lusty and drinking and those sort of things that were going on in the A&E world. So that sums them up. And I think that's it for us today. And I hope you enjoyed our panel this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.